No creature among them went upon two legs. No creature called any other creature master. All animals were equal. George Orwell. To no one's surprise, I used to play Dungeons & Dragons. Having had several dungeon masters over the years, they all had a different methodology to rolling up characters. Some would hand out pre-made characters for quick adventures. Some went for the balls out, keep what you roll method. Some ran a system that handed out traits based on backstory and lore that would give advantages or disadvantages based on the depth. By far, though, my least favorite and most unrealistic method I ever had to work within was something a DM of mine called potential points. All characters, regardless of backstory, background, race, class, or whatever, got a pool of 90 points. No character could ever go over an 18 in any attribute, and none could ever go under a 12. It allowed some min-maxing, but ensured all player characters had the opportunity to compete somewhat equally with the other player characters, with no influence of time available to write the backstory, lucky rolls, or simply playing the DM's favorite. But ultimately, these campaigns had no panache, no epic badass, and no simpering weakling for the party to protect. In a very real sense, those that discount both heritability and inheritability in humans believe we play by this system, that humans are just a pile of potential points that assign equal value to all, just in various, sometimes mysterious ways. This is a dangerous and extremely wrong-headed way of viewing individuals, as it sets a double-edged, unrealistic expectation across the board for their outcomes. Now, to cut to the point on some things about race, culture, ethnicity, etc. No, the mean measurements don't really mean a damn thing for an individual. But they are very useful in determining how distribution of outcomes align. It's easy to complain about how someone in the 95th percentile is being treated at a major corporation, but it's uncomfortable to discuss how someone in the 20th percentile is treated in general. It's very uncomfortable to admit that, yes, in all likelihood, someone whose outcome puts them below the poverty line would produce metrics that would indicate that they belong there. The other, probably more salient point about why ethnicity and race metrics are uncomfortable to discuss for folks is the fix. The only fix, given heritability and inheritance of traits, would very likely be classified as eugenics. That's a really uncomfortable conversation to have for anyone. It's much easier to fall back to potential points and keep searching for the hidden value and untapped potential in people than accept that their presentation and that their metrics are what they are. So, how does this mindset infiltrate oneself when looking at folks? The first way is overvaluing outliers. Oh, I know this guy. He's a brilliant black guy. He had the chance for X, Y, and Z. An individual outlier fits well within every data model we have about intelligence. This is a comfortable straw man to construct for oneself. The second way is what I call the underdog fetish. You know, the rags to riches stories, the ghetto to Broadway, the immigrant that arrives with $5 in their pocket to become the magnet of industry. The reason our culture loves these stories is that they're incredibly and painfully rare. But they give us, even those above the mean, hope that we can raise above our station against all odds. It's why Americans love playing the lottery. You know, if someone with such clear negative inherited traits can succeed, then maybe those traits aren't as steadfast as they're presented. It's another manifestation of the outlier issue, but more on the negative side. The third and most poignant way is the strength in numbers paradox. If everyone is individually able to be valuable or valueless, that might mean that I'm not as important as I think. If we all just hope and wish that we're all equal in value, then maybe we are. This also manifests itself as a solipsistic paranoia. Everyone can do or is as limited as me, but some nebulous they are holding me back for reasons. In addition, with the uncomfortable issues discussed before, the construct that everyone has some equalizing values or traits becomes the only palatable outcome. What we're going to do now is a little prop. We're going to visualize what this whole system sort of nets out to and how it kind of applies to the real world. Let's start off. We're going to name our character John, because that's exciting. As you can see, we've got 90 potential points in the pool and 6 attributes to spend them on. Creativity, charisma, athleticism, hardiness, intelligence, and empathy. We're going to give John a nice 15 across the board. to spend all the points and make it all the same. John's pretty boring. As such, we'll make his alignment, true neutral. A real centrist. There's no need to fill out that pesky background section. It really has no bearing on this individual at all. Skills? Abilities? Why? Whatever John chooses can go in here. Really? The world is his oyster. The attributes we've filled out before have no bearing on what skills and abilities he can gain or learn. Obviously, there are no talents in this game. No one's born with any innate advantage over anybody else. So let's print this sucker up. There are a few problems here, of course. The first being that 15 is not an average score. Relatively speaking, it's significantly above average for all players in this system. An 11 would be an average, of course. Secondly, what bearing do those other attributes have on John's ability to perform in, say, a society? Well, they may have some use in flourishing, but as a baseline, if you're using nothing but charisma and empathy, you're going to be called a con man or a huckster because you will be. And lastly, but probably most importantly, you might be asking yourself, but Moose, why are athleticism and hardiness in there? And I would answer, why wouldn't they be? They're both valuable assets, right? You're asking because athleticism and hardiness, like height, eye, hair, and skin color, are inherited through parental genes typically. Yeah, but I thought that all people had potential and were equally important, and we have to balance this out at the end of the equation. Let's try another example that might help wrap all of this together. Let's make another character. This time we'll name him Tom. Tom's pretty creative, not very charismatic, not in the general sense. Athletic, not very hardy. Some familial and genetic disorders put him below average, and since we can't account for backstory, we'll have to manually adjust here to, above average. Sweet. Tom isn't very smart. In fact, he's below average intelligence. But potential points won't allow us to go below average. It's a real dilemma. So here's what we'll do. We'll get around the system here real quick. Fudge some stuff. Intelligence, if we're being honest, Tom is really like a 9. Our little hacks will let us do this for now. And to wrap up, Tom's not very big on empathy either, so we'll just give him a 12. Well, this leaves us with a balance. Well, I guess we'll just have to wrap that up to untapped potential. In closing, let me give a couple quick sound bites that should be easily clipped for mudslinging and uncontextualizing for folks that like to do that kind of thing. Some animals are more equal than others. This is normal, it's okay, and it's natural. You cannot be pro-evolution and anti-hierarchy. We should measure the value of a man not on his natural talents, but what he does with them. Like a penis. Outliers exist, but they don't define a group. Positive outliers are good, and negative outliers are bad. We need to be able to have that conversation. Some people's ceilings are much lower than others. That needs to be okay and acceptable because it's reality. This mindset has nothing to do with race. All races have downslopes, they have back ends, they have a below average. If intelligence is just too emotional a word for you, let's not call it that. Let's use the capacity to survive, contribute, thrive, and succeed metric. Because within a shockingly tight margin, it is just that. Is that an acceptable compromise? Mating and selection presentations matter. Someone who's tall, well-spoken, ruggedly handsome, like me, is going to have a better choice of who they mate with. That's on purpose. That's natural and it's normal. That should tell us something about all of those traits. On this last point, if you can't wrap your head around it, let's just ask 4 questions here and really think about what the answers are. A, would you rather have a child with a 75 IQ or a 135 IQ? B, would you rather have your child stand 6'3", 220 pounds with a 10% body fat, or 5'9", 350 pounds with a 45% body fat? C, would you rather your mate be desirable, physically fit and lusted after by your competition? Or physically repulsive? D. Would you rather mate with a partner with a 75 IQ or 135 IQ? Bonus follow-up on that one. Do you think your preference or tolerance is a choice or selection presenting itself as free will? If you genuinely answer it wouldn't matter on any of these questions, please don't breed. Please. I would love your feedback on that bonus question in the comments. Thumbs up or down as you see fit, and subscribe if you'd like to get more of this. Thanks.